for other people to join. All right, good evening. Welcome to P&P Live. My name is Margaret Orto, and I'm the events coordinator in the Children and Teens Department at Politics and Prose. Thank you for joining us and tuning into this virtual format where we continue to bring authors and new books to you. I have the pleasure of hosting our event this evening, and I'm delighted to welcome our guests, authors Paula Chase, Varian Johnson, and Kekla Magoon in conversation with Dr. Kimberly N. Parker for a panel called My So-Called Family and featuring a discussion of their latest middle grade novels. Before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. And we do have closed captioning available for anyone who wants that option. You just click on the live transcript at the bottom of your screen and then select Show Subtitle. Most importantly, you can click the link we will drop in the chat to get your own copies of Keeping It Real by Paula Chase, Playing the Cards You're Dealt by Varian Johnson, and the season of Sticks Malone by Kekla Magoon. Lastly, if you have a question for our guest tonight, you can click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and add one there. At the end of the presentation, our guests will have time to answer some of your questions. You can also upvote the questions you like and want answered. Now on to introductions. Paula Chase is the author of many novels for middle grade and young adult readers such as Doughboys, So Done, and Turning Point. She is also the co-founder of the Brown Bookshelf, an organization that increases awareness of African-American voices writing for young readers. Her newest book for upper middle grade readers, just published this week, let me show you the cover again, Keeping It Real, which we'll feature tonight. Varian Johnson has written a number of award-winning books for children and young adults, including The Parker Inheritance, The Great Green Heist, and the graphic novel Twins. Varian received a BS in civil engineering from the University of Oklahoma. He later received an MFA in writing for children and young adults from Vermont College of Fine Arts, where he is now a member of the faculty. His newest book, published earlier this month, is Playing the Cards You're Dealt, which we'll also discuss tonight. And Kekla Magoon is the award-winning author of many fiction and nonfiction books for young readers, including The Season of Sticks Malone, which we'll be featuring tonight, The Rock and the River, How It Went Down, and the Robin Hoodlum Adventure Series. Kekla received a BA in History from Northwestern University and an MFA in Writing from Vermont College of Fine Arts, where she also now serves on the faculty. As I mentioned, we'll feature her middle grade book tonight, The Season of Sticks Malone. However, her new nonfiction, Revolution in Our Time, The Black Panther Party's Promise to the People, publishes soon on November 23rd. So be on the lookout for that. Moderating tonight's conversation is Dr. Kimberly N. Parker, who is currently the director of the Crimson Summer Academy at Harvard University. Dr. Parker is the 2020 recipient of the National Council of Teachers of English Outstanding Elementary Educator Award, a co-founder of #DisruptText and #31DaysBIPOC, and the current president of the Black Educators Alliance of Massachusetts. And now I'm delighted to turn the event over to them. Take it away.
Thank you, Margaret. Good evening, everyone. We are very excited to get started, but before we do that, we just wanted to have a minute of appreciation and sadness for the passing of Jerry Pinkney, who, when we're talking about family tonight, has done so much for Black children's literature. So he is missed. We are sending out our deepest sadness to his family. Just wanted to note that before we begin. Good evening, everyone. This is our panel. It's so great to see you, Paula, Varian, and Kekla. Whoa. Right, my so-called family. I love it. I'm excited to talk about your books, but I think too, there's just such a deep appreciation for what you have done for Black children's and middle grade and young adult literature. So I just wanted to say thank you first for persevering, for giving us books that are really important to our children and to our scholarship. And so thank you. I wanted to know if we could just start by giving just a quick summary of your books, which we are also hoping that people will buy, because I think that's also very important. So let's get us started. Paula, do you want to tell us a little summary?
Sure. So Keeping It Real is about family, privilege, and conformity in the Black community. And it really touches on a topic that's always been really close to me because I've kind of dealt with it. And that is the notion that when someone speaks grammatically correct, or if there are certain things someone does, that they are talking white or they are acting white. And it's a topic that I don't know that we actually talk a lot about. And it's, rooted in classism. And so I really wanted to address that with the main character and how it impacts her friendships, but also it's very much rooted in her upbringing and how she deals with another character in the book ends up changing her entire life view.
Thank you. And Paula, I think it's commendable how your characters move so freely between Black English and other varieties of English. And it's just,
we do, right?
Right. And it's seamless. And I think it's also empowering for young people to see their language represented so powerfully on the page, like our language, the languages that we speak, in a way that affirms them. So I appreciate it. And I will say that there's a plot twist in that book that I did not see coming. I screamed. I was like, right? I said, oh, Paula. I think my child was like, what is wrong with you? But it was good. It was very good. Okay, Varian.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Thank you, Politics and Prose. Really quickly, because they will not say it themselves, I do want to give a shout out to Paula and Kekla really quickly. Paula was just awarded the Allen Bill Konigsberg Award just last week, right?
Yes, it was this week. I know, where's the time? What was this week?
No, congratulations. And Kekla, her book isn't even out yet, and she's already a finalist for the National Book Award for her nonfiction book about the Black Panther Party. And so congratulations to both of you. I'm happy for you, a little jealous, mostly happy. Playing the Cards You're Dealt is about 10-year-old Anthony Joplin, who is getting ready for the big Spades tournament that happens in their community every year. He played last year and he didn't do so well. He pretty much flamed out. So now his father's really toughening him up, trying to hype him up and get him ready, because his father sees it as this big time Joplin Man tradition with Ant's brother, Roland, Ant's father, and then even Ant's grandfather all winning before. So as Ant is trying to get ready for the competition, he starts to see these fissures, these breaks in kind of his father's tough exterior. He realizes something's going on. His father's keeping secrets that threaten to tear Ant's entire family apart. In the book, I certainly love the game of Spades, and I want to celebrate that and everything that goes into Spades, including a healthy amount of drama and trash talking. But I also wanted to discuss toxic masculinity as well too, and legacy and things that we carry on and why we do that. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be strong versus weak? Kind of all that wrapped up in this book about the game of Spades, and I guess the game of life as well. And that's Playing the Cards You're Dealt.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I was ready to play some spades while I was like, oh, I need to get my spades game going. And we're going to come back to the themes that are emerging. Thank you. Okay, Kekla, your turn.
All right. Hi, everyone. The Season of Sticks Malone is a summer adventure, and it is about two brothers, Caleb and Bobby Jean Franklin, who live in a very small town in Indiana, and their neighbor, Sticks Malone, who is just so cool. He is one of those people who exudes cool. We all know these people, right? Caleb, who is our point of view character, wants more than anything to be special. He doesn't want to be ordinary. He wants to make his mark. He feels like there's something in him that the world hasn't seen yet. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of us can identify with. And so when he sees Sticks Malone, this cool older boy, he says, I want to be like Sticks. And so that means following Sticks into all of Sticks's adventures. And Sticks likes to live on the edge. So this is a story about family, about siblinghood, about friendship, about family of origin, as well as found family, and about having adventures and pushing boundaries. And so, you can see the theme, like Dr. Parker said, that's developing here on the panel. But, for me, this story was about Black characters living in Indiana, which is where I grew up, and something that you don't always see. Often my stories are very overtly about the things we associate with Blackness that are often complicated. And I wanted to address something that was equally complicated, like family, equally complicated, like friendship, but in a fun and lighthearted and I would say drama-free way, except nothing's drama-free in the landscape of the season of Sticks Malone. There's so much drama and excitement.
Oh my goodness, thank you. And I love Sticks Malone. And I just want to say a quick plug. When I was a judge for the Hornbook Award, that was the year it won. Fantastic book. I love that character. And I also grew up in Kentucky, so I felt very much like, oh, I feel seen here.
Thank you.
So thank you all for that. All of you tackle complex subjects, including alcoholism and addiction, social class, homelessness, toxic masculinity, and many others, handling them thoughtfully and genuinely. Tell us about why you think Black middle grade readers deserve this care and attention. I'll just lob that up there for anyone who wants to start that one.
A few weeks ago, I followed Dr. Dwayne Reed on Twitter, and he had tweeted something that said kids deserve answers, and they deserve full answers. And it really struck me that that's exactly why I write. I write because I agree with that. I think that children live in the same world we live in. And yet we seem to think that there is this certain age, this pinnacle that they reach where we can begin to talk about the world that they're already living in. And I write about these topics because there are some children out there who are experiencing the things that Marigold experiences in terms of, the classism that she experiences both at her school and when she's with Black kids in the community. So it's really about, they deserve answers. They deserve to be able to process around them.
It's so difficult, I think, to try to compartmentalize things about our life experiences, to say that these are the difficult topics over here, and these are the easy, lighthearted, kid-friendly topics over here, because that's not how life works. Everything is intermeshed and intermingled. I mean, in the course of trying to write this lighthearted adventure story, right, I'm dealing with Black characters living in a predominantly white community. So I still have to deal with the specter of police violence. I still have to deal with, the idea of going somewhere you don't know, where you aren't known, and what your fears and concerns are about that space. And how do you negotiate being a teen and trying to discover and push your boundaries and go new places when you have that fear, right? And so I think that it's very limiting to say that there are only certain things we can write about for young readers. And I think we don't give them enough credit if we don't think that they can handle really complicated things. Those things come out of the dark at them, right, at different times. And so I think that we have to give them safe spaces to explore the really challenging things about life, and books can be that safe space.
Yeah, I think our readers go through all different types of things in their life, right? And who are we to say what is easy or what isn't easy, or what is or isn't appropriate for them at a certain age, because they may be living it, or they may know someone else who's living it. I think our job is to approach these topics with care, but also with realness. How would a young person in these stories tackle this issue? What would they think about it? What would they wrestle with? And as long as we're being honest with that on the page, I think we're doing our job. And I'll say one other thing, talking specifically about toxic masculinity, sometimes I cringe when I hear that word, although I think it's very apt. I also think sometimes folks feel like, oh, yes, when they get to high school, we'll talk about it. And I'm like, you're waiting until high school, you're too late. It's already a problem. There's all these things that are happening in the world that we can talk about in different ways that is appropriate for young readers' age and mental state. We just have to take care and think about how we're doing it, and often, balancing that with fun as well too, because like Kekla said, life is a mixed bag, and our characters should reflect that too.
And I was just going to say, I really am always very careful when people talk about my books, and they'll call it an issue book, and I don't really like the term, because I don't know. I mean, I think it signals to young readers, oh, this is going to be, a lesson. It's going to be heavy-handed. And I don't think any of my books are like, someone else may, but I don't think any of my books are like that. I don't think Kekla or Varian's is either. Like, within all of that, it's just kids being kids. With mine, it's fashion, and with Varian, it's the Spades thing, and with Kekla, it's just a summer adventure and kids just going off and doing their thing outside of the eyesight of adults. It's really important, to understand that those issues are there, but they aren't the focal point of the story.
And so much of Blackness is just every day, the everyday. I told someone, I said 99.9% of the time, we're just living our lives. Just living our lives, trying to live our lives.
Every day.
And Dr. Parker, don't we deserve to get to live our lives, right?
Right. In all of the myriad ways, right? Like, and why has it taken so long to write a book about a Spades tournament? I wonder
about that.
I was like,
I would like to know if anybody else needed some therapy, because as soon as I read it, I needed therapy from my own experiences with Spades. And I want you to know that it triggered me, because a couple years ago, we taught my niece, before she went to college, we taught her and my youngest daughter how to play Spades. I said, she was going to Delaware State. I said, you are not going to a HBCU and not knowing how to play Spades, girl. Yeah. But it traumatized them. My youngest one will not touch Spades now, because it got too serious.
Folks don't play when you come to the Spades table.
No, and that all came through in Varian's book. I could see when he sat down with Shirley and when they were like negotiating the partners, I was like, oh. And then when he made a choice that put Shirley on the outside, I was like, Shirley, but you want to? And he was like, do I want to win? I thought I was right there. So, I mean, I think that all of these details speak to the sort of the complexity of all of the characters. And, they also stay with you long after it's gone, right? I still, it was nice to pick up Sticks Malone again and sort of remember all of the reasons why I loved it when I read it a couple of years ago. And it still stands up. And I think that that's why I also am so indebted to you all, because you have books that last, right? You are writing today's classics that my child will read. We tried to read the Spades book. I was like, I got this one. But, your books will remain and endure. So I'm really, really grateful for that. The theme of family and what makes a family runs through all of your books. Can you each tell us what family means for your particular characters that you've written about?
Yeah, for Marigold, she is from an upper middle class family, and she lives in, a very nice neighborhood in the city, but she lives with what I call her play grandmother. It's just someone who raised her father. So it's this intergenerational family, and you have her play grandmother who is, very much the moral center for the family. She's the one who roots them in their working class roots and reminds them of where, they've come from, where they've been, and how they should navigate the world based on that. So for her, family is very central to how she views the world, because she doesn't know what being working class is like, but she has this grandmother who lives with her who will always remind her of that. And so she finds herself, having to respect something that she may have never experienced, except for in small bites. So that's what forms, sort of that mixed, I'm not really sure where I fit sometimes.
For Ant, family has a lot to do with his father and legacy, right? And what it means to wear that Joplin name. And I think that grows over the course of the story to think about friends as family too. And how do friends have each other back? How do they care for each other? And then even beyond that, community, I really wanted there to be a big community feel to the book. And, the great thing about community is, they always know your business, whether you want them to or not. But it's great when everyone in the community is kind of looking out for you, right? And rooting for you and wanting the best for you, even if you're in a tough situation. So I think, and hopefully the reader's appreciation for what family can mean grows throughout the story, instead of being one thing and family and father and legacy to being community.
I would say my characters have kind of divergent experiences of family, because Caleb, who's the protagonist, and his brother Bobby Jean have a very sort of nuclear family experience that has been what they've always had. They have two parents, they have a little sister, that's their life. And I don't think that it necessarily occurs to them to question what family is. And so because the story is told through Caleb's perspective, we don't see that questioning on the page. But on the other hand, Sticks Malone is living in foster care. He's had his family of origin disrupted in one way or another, which we don't actually find out on the page what exactly has occurred in his past, but we know that he is feeling uprooted. We know that he has been working to create a family of his own. He has his foster sister whose name is Pixie, and they have bonded and made their names similar to each other, Pixie and Styx. And I think that Styx's experience of the novel is basically trying to realize that there are people who appreciate him, there are people who love him, there are people who can make him feel at home. And so even though that's happening in the reader's mind and it's happening in Styx's mind, it's not entirely on the page, I think you can see it coming forward. And so I feel like that kind of spectrum of family of origin to found family is represented on the page there, and really important to think about who is it that makes you feel at home, because that's a really complicated idea for a lot of people, and it isn't necessarily something that comes from your family of origin. And so Styx is one of those people who is looking for, and luckily in some ways finds that in the course of the story.
That was so beautiful. I mean, my problem is that I'm over here trying to take notes, and I look at my Post-it. Like I said, I was like, I'm going to take these notes so I can put them on Twitter later. So sorry, but that was lovely, right? Like, what are the families that we are born into, and what are the families that we choose? Now, one of the things that I know that none of you all do is that you don't let the grownups off the hook in these books, right? In fact, many of the grownups in these books fail children. Often. Why do you have flawed adults in your books, and what is the message that you hope your readers will understand about the grownups?
Kekla, you want to kick it off? You always go last.
Sure. I mean, I think my experience of childhood was that all the grownups were flawed. So, with all love to my parents who may well be watching, that was my experience, and a lot of it was sort of minimizing children, right? Wait till you're older, you'll understand when you're older, all of those kinds of things that are not really fair to a young person who's just trying to understand the world, just trying to make their way. And I think that's the nature of childhood, right? Is that you're constantly confronted with these adults who have agendas and who have ideas and who are imperfect, and they do all these kinds of things. Maybe they're even well-meaning things, right? My characters have a dad who is really proud of the fact that they live in a small town and that they fit in there. And, for him, that's a safe place. People know them. He's made sure that everyone in town knows who his children are, because to him, that makes them feel safe. That makes him feel safe, because he's like, they're never going to encounter someone who doesn't know who they are, someone who's afraid of them. And so that fear that he carries as an adult man who knows what's happening in the world, he knows what's happening in Minneapolis, he knows what happened in Ferguson, he knows what happened in Florida, right? He's carrying that. He watches the news every night. He wants his family to be ordinary. And that's where Caleb gets this idea. No, I don't want to be ordinary. I want to be something else. And even when his dad tells him, you're not ordinary, you're extraordinary, Caleb misunderstands and thinks he's saying, you're the most ordinary person in the world. You are extraordinary. And so that's really the catalyst. He's like, no, I'm not extraordinary. Gosh darn it, I'm special. And he wants to prove that. And so I think that adults, even when they mean well, can really mess you up because you're just trying to form your identity, and adults have these expectations and understandings that you don't have. And so kids are always putting pieces together, and sometimes they're putting them together wrong, and adults don't always see that and realize that. And so I think it's an inevitable problem, but something that's really fun and interesting to explore in fiction.
You go, Paula.
One of the threads when I was talking about what would be a cool panel topic, one of the threads was secrets for me that, I kind of saw in our books. And I know that, for me, it was about, number one, you're not going to write a book about Black people and the parents aren't in there anyway. We're not the boarding school. Okay, this is great. There are no the parental presence is going to be there. And so because it's going to be there, I want it to be a realistic presence. And I think it's important for young readers to know that their parents are human and therefore flawed and are well-meaning, when they try to keep certain things from them. And so that was, where I was going with not letting the parents off the hook, because there are going to be consequences when you do that as a parent. Maybe they don't happen when your kid is small. Maybe it won't be until they're an adult. But in this particular case, it happens and you have to deal with it, as your kid is looking at you like, what the heck?
Yeah. Paula, I think I agree with you with that, with there's consequences to certain actions. And I think not every parent, but most parents are trying to do what they think is best for their child. And sometimes you just get it wrong. And they could be doing it out of love and they still get it wrong. I certainly think that's the case in Playing the Cards You're Dealt. I think Ant's father really thinks he's doing the right thing for Ant and for the entire family. And he can't see how misguided he is and the mistakes that he's making and how it affects everything else. But he just really thinks he's kind of being like the strong, silent, tough it out type of guy, which is not certainly what his family needs. And it's not necessarily what Ant needs to see. Also, like Kekla, like you were saying, like I think it's really interesting when a child realizes that their parent is flawed for the first time. And like I remember thinking my parents were could do no wrong, and then realizing at some point, oh, they're human. And it does shift things a little bit as you're trying to kind of work through, well, what does that mean? And eventually, I think hopefully you get to the point where you can understand them more and they can understand you more when they're not on that pedestal. But boy, it can really kind of screw you up there for a little while. And certainly I think that's what's happening to Ant in this book.
Thank you. Yeah. I will say too, for our audience, we have a few more questions and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So if you have a Q&A, a question for our panel, please put it in the Q&A box and we'll get to it. We'll try to get to it. Okay, here's a fun one. Which character in your book most resembles your middle school or junior high self? When I went to school, it was called junior high.
Me too. So we're aging ourselves. All right, V, you kick it off.
For sure, Ant. I always did this still now. I like wear my emotions on my sleeve, right? I really, really do. And I think Ant does, and he's not like his dad like that. And he's trying to figure out, is that okay? So for sure, Ant. I mean, I wish I was like Shirley. Shirley is really this confident young woman in the book. She's my favorite, but I was no Shirley. I am still no Shirley.
I love Shirley. I wish I had been like her in middle school too.
I know. I love her. I love her.
So confident. I mean, I wish that I don't know. I feel like I'm a mix. I feel like there's a little bit of me in both of my characters, but middle school wise, yeah, absolutely. I'm more like Marigold just because, I remember being in that space where in middle school and in junior high school, I went to a predominantly white middle school, but I lived in a predominantly Black neighborhood. So, I had those experiences and I had that, kind of confusion, and I dealt with it the same way she did, just feeling like I don't really know what is so wrong with having white friends, so I went through that whole kind of not being able to really see the issue right away until I got older. So yeah, it's me. I wish I were more like who we see as the antagonist, but she's far more mature than I would have ever been at that age.
I think that in some ways I'm like Caleb internally. Like I think Caleb is an expression of who I was internally as a kid, like that desire that he has to feel special. That was important. That was an important thing to me. And for me, it was, this was one positive thing that I definitely got from my parents, among other many positive things, was this feeling that I'm special. Like I am special and it's okay that the world can't see it. Like in middle school, it was a very hard time. And yet somehow like I had this core in myself where I was like, I am special. Like it's okay that nobody can see it because I know this to be true about myself. And I really held on to that in a way that has been powerful for me in my life in times when I didn't have friends and I didn't feel like the world understood me. And I, many times still don't feel, understood or seen in certain ways, and it's certainly a blessing that my work is seen. Right. And so, I think that character comes from that like sort of desire that I had that was internal, but it was always completely hidden. I was definitely in behavior much more like Bobby Jean, just trepidatious and holding back. Caleb's like curious and wants to go and just push all the boundaries. And Bobby Jean's like, but should we? And in reality, I'm the kid who's like, I want to do the thing, but should I? And so I think that I was more of a person who held back at that age than I wanted to be, and then that I was willing to be. But I think that's part of why sometimes I write sibling characters, is because I can show different sides of myself through those characters.
I love that. I also love to get a little writer secret. I feel like we're in the writer's room. I'm like, oh, that's very clever. Thank you.
You're my very good friends. I can trust you with this.
Right? Just us and our YouTube channel.
You and all of you
right now. Right. It's all great. It's all great. Now I really want to focus on the work that you have done as advocates for Black children's literature. And I mean, we've seen some changes over the last couple of years. So I'm curious to know, have you been hopeful? What is the future going to bring? And then also, let's talk a little bit about responsibility. What's the responsibility for Black readers, Black educators, and others to support Black kids' literature?
You know, first, I want to acknowledge that I think it's okay that we're all tired. I know that I am. The last year especially has been particularly hard. And, you know, you see some people doubling down on not wanting to see us reflected in literature, even when it's just our experiences. They don't want to see us reflected. So it's okay to be tired. I honestly feel like responsibility at this point for me and for the people I network with are simply about being able to amplify one another. You know, when I'm looking to do panels, when I'm looking to for resources, I go to that nest of people that I'm comfortable with, who I know are doing the work. And I apologize on one end because I'm asking you to do more work, but on the other end, there's safety in numbers. And you know, and I feel like it's important for us to, you know, be able to depend on certain folks. So, you know, I mean, just being able to call on one another and understanding if that person says, "Oh, I really can't do it." But right now, it's about amplifying and uplifting one another and trying to keep us, you know, trying to keep us in the race, honestly.
And I mean, to that point, I would just like to say and acknowledge the Brown Bookshelf and the work that y'all have been doing forever. I mean, that was one of the first kind of media features I feel like I had when I was a brand new author, was to be featured on the 28 days, you know, and just, and, you know, feeling like it's still a resource that I refer people to constantly when they're looking for diverse titles or looking for Black authors. I'm like, go to Brown Bookshelf, you know, and so it's a really amazing resource and really wonderful for our industry and for our communities, for libraries, for schools, for parents, for families. You know, it's just an amazing thing. And so I'm really always happy when I go there and discover what's been posted and what's being talked about. I think it's really powerful. You've led some really important conversations and some and you know, sort of really kind of call to action kind of things over the years that have been really important. So I think that's worth mentioning in the context of what we're talking about. And I would say I feel a sense of responsibility. You know, the question about, you know, what is the responsibility? I also shy away from like trying to feel a certain obligation to do certain things in the industry, because I feel like it leads to a lot of pressure, you know, because I feel like there are so many responsibilities that no individual, no website, no group of people can actually do them all. And so I think that's why, you know, Paula's point about uplifting every other voice is really important, because nobody can do everything. We're all doing what we can do in our little corner. And so that certain sense of amplification and saying, okay, here's what I do. I'm going to do it really well. People are going to talk about it, but I'm also going to talk about what these other people are doing because it's different from what I do. And it's really important. So that way, together as a community and as friends and as colleagues, we actually cover the gamut of all of the things. And it makes me feel better about the things I'm not doing and that it's okay to be really strong in the things that I am doing, because if you try to do it all, it's just too much. And so I think that it's really important that we look at it as a community effort, a collective effort, and something that we're doing together to try to advance opportunities and literacy for our young readers.
I mean, speaking about advancing opportunities, that's kind of like the way I see it. Like, we have this great opportunity, not necessarily this burden, but this opportunity to do this thing for young readers, for our colleagues, or for other Black people of color in the industry. And I've been really fortunate having worked with Paula with the Brown Bookshelf, helping to form that and seeing how much it's grown over the years. And then also working with Kekla and from my college and seeing what she does as a teacher too, from from how she helps students and her feedback on the craft aspect, but also on the softer side of things as well too, when it comes to publication and being a writer in this world. There's just 1,000 ways to do it, and we all do it in the way that makes sense. I will often tell folks, sometimes if all you could do is amplify someone's book on Twitter, you do that. If all you could do is go buy it or check it out, that's fine. Sometimes there's this work behind the scenes of folks mentoring people that doesn't get a lot of credit, which is just as important. And then there's folks who are in the forefront, carrying the flag, the banner for people of color, and that's just as important too. Like both Paula and Kekla said, it's all about us working together, using our resources and our skills the best way we can to kind of raise all the ships in the sea, I guess I would say.
And Varian, he won't say it, but speaking of behind the scenes, he is still involved with the Brown Bookshelf because we won't let him go. And he's like, it's like an emeritus position, but, in all honesty, we understand that, he may not have the bandwidth. I may not have the bandwidth sometimes. That's how all of us are. But we know that, if we call and ask a question, or what do you think about this, that we're there for each other. And that's what it's about. Like you said, it's about when you can do it and when somebody can't, understanding that they can't.
Yeah. And it's such a powerful testament to the collective, right? And that if one of you wins, everyone wins. And I really, really feel that it's nice that the theme is family, because I tell you what, like, you all are so committed, and I'm really, really appreciative. Okay, for our audience, this is our last question, and then I'll go to the Q&A. For all of you, what's next? You're always writing, so tell us, what can we expect after we buy these current books? What do we have to look forward to?
I'm so disappointed that I actually have one of those obligatory I can't talk about it things, because it was supposed to be announced this week, and then it got pushed back. So there's going to be something announced, but what I can talk about is I actually, after spending some time in the upper middle grade area, which I really love, I am headed back to YA for a little bit. I do have a 3-book deal coming out with Wednesday's book, starting in 2023. So I'm going to dip my toe back into YA for a little while.
Paula, I'm just going to insert myself here. I found Paula Chase through YA, because in my classroom library, my students were always reading Paula Chase's books. Those were the books that ran away. So I'm a day one from Paula Chase.
You're an OG fan.
I just want to note that. Sorry.
Let it be known.
Let it be right that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, I probably have something secret, but I have things that are not secret as well. So the immediate next thing is what we've already mentioned, Revolution in Our Time, the Black Panther Party's Promise to the People, which is, it's young YA, so it's 12 and up, and it is a history of the Black Panther Party in the context of American history. So starting the first ships that brought kidnapped Africans to these shores, all the way through the civil rights movement and the transition to Black power, and then to where we are today and how we pick up that history and carry it forward. And then the next generation is, gonna take responsibility for that. It is taking responsibility for that, but they deserve to have the history and understand where we've been and how we got to where we are, so they can build stronger, in my view. And for middle grade, my next book is Chester Keane Cracks the Code, and it will be out in, I think, summer 2022. Definitely 2022. But I don't have an exact date, and that one's from Random House. So cover reveal someday. I haven't seen it yet, but eventually we all will.
Let me think. For me, yeah, secret, not secret. Hold on. Okay, so I have a book. I have a YA graphic novel coming out with DC Comics about this character, Mr. Miracle, who was created by Jack Kirby. He's an escape artist. I love heist. I love all things like that. So I'm doing this, and this character will be a take on this character, kind of a fresh take, I think, working with Daniel Isles, who was a Black British illustrator. And I'm excited for everyone to see that. That comes out in January. And there will be a Twins 2 graphic novel. I don't know when there will be a Twins 2 graphic novel, but theoretically, there would be one. The great thing about graphic novels for me is that I love working on the script, and it's a little bit, not always faster, a little bit faster. But Shannon Wright, my partner on these graphic novels, she really does the heavy lifting with the illustration and everything. So it's going to take a little while, but maybe 2023, might be 2024. I'm not sure, but it'll be out eventually. So
I love the question marks.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And I can't tell, but I can tell this. I love it. There's a little bit of drama. There's a little bit of anticipation. We can buy the books that you have now while waiting for the next one. So it's great to know. Of course, I expected that you all would always have more that we can look forward to because, we want more. We want more. So thank you for helping us. Okay, I'm going to the Q&A. So for our audience, if you have questions, please put them in the box and I will here's one from Alyssa. What are some memorable interactions you've had with kid readers?
Oh gosh, so many.
You know what?
Oh.
Okay, one of my most memorable is actually I was doing a school visit in DC, and I'm sorry, my brain is mush, so I can't remember the name of the school, but it was an all boys school. And I was specifically talking about doughboys. And for those who don't know, doughboys is about two 13-year-old boys who happen to get caught up in hustling drugs for their basketball coach. And it's about good mentors and bad mentors. And anyway, when I was signing the books, the one young man came up to me and he thanked me for telling the story because he said his dad had been in and out of jail because of dealing drugs, and that he just, he liked that I was actually talking about it in terms of how it impacted the young characters. And it was so it really reminded me that this is exactly why I write, because this young man had no control over his family situation and, his dad being in and out of jail. And just for him to be able to have a book that he felt represented a part of him and that maybe didn't have shame attached to it, it was very emotional for me to know that I was able to offer him that.
What about you, Kekla?
Well, I mean, many memorable interactions. I mean, one of my personal favorites was I once met three boys who look exactly like the characters, Caleb, Bobby Jean, and Styx. And they were three brothers, but to the size, to everything. I mean, I wouldn't show a picture because, but I had a picture taken with them because I was just like, oh my gosh, you are my characters. I have met you. You are real. Tall, skinny, dark-skinned, oldest brother. And then the other two who were similar in height, one a little stockier than the other. I mean, it was just exactly my characters. And I was like, oh my gosh. And we had such a good time. We hung out at a book festival with their mom, and I don't know, it was just really cool. So that was one of my personal favorites. I think the most meaningful in the bigger picture is the handful of times, shockingly more than once, the handful of times that a teen reader of one of my YA books has come to me at a signing or at a school and said, I mean, literally I choke up just thinking about it. This is the first book I read all the way through to the end. And that, I mean, I will cry right now just thinking about what that means, the power of that. And just to be able to create that experience for someone is a privilege beyond measure. And I'm so proud that, any of the books would have had that impact on someone, because, they're going to then go pick up another book because they're like, oh, this is a thing I can do now. I can read a book. And I just it opens up somebody's world. And that's amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think anytime someone comes up and they appreciate your book, whether they're picking up for the first time or if they read it multiple times and they want to talk about it, it's really exciting. I will say when I was on the road back when we were all on the road, when I was on the road for the Parker Inheritance, I knew Twins was coming out next. So I was able to show images from it. And graphic novels are such a big thing for young readers. But as we found in our own house with my daughters, there just aren't enough graphic novels featuring kids of color. There just aren't enough, and it kills us. And so this book Twins became this opportunity to showcase all these Black kids, these brown girls with their hair, whether it's puffs or braids and different shades and shapes and sizes. And when I would show these images that Shannon created on the screen, they would lose their minds. And they would come up to me and say, she looks just like me, and she would just look just like her. And I will say, I love prose novels. I love all books. I am such a big fan of graphic novels because there's so much you can see, not, page after page, panel after panel, reaffirming someone's belief in themselves just because they see themselves on the page. And as much as I love prose, there's something about actually seeing it as opposed to reading it and imagining it that's really, really powerful for young readers, and certainly powerful for me as a author, as a creator, hearing that as well.
You know what? When I saw the cover for Keeping It Real, the first thing I thought is, man, I wish this was a graphic novel. Like it just, the way that the illustrator handled that cover just made me realize how vivid it could be in that form. I agree with you. I would love to see more books like that.
I mean, they're adapting books, hint Scholastic, if you want to adapt The Great Green Heist, I'm just saying,
I'm saying HarperCollins, Greenville, if you would like to do a graphic novel, I'm open to it.
You'll take a meeting.
I will take a meeting.
But I think that what Varian said is really important, right? There's that gap for younger readers, and they love graphic novels. I have a 7-year-old, and that's all he wants to read. And so when we find ones with characters of color, thanks for Twins and others, there's a need, there's such a gap. So, I mean, there are lots of gaps and also lots of opportunities. So hopefully.
Dr. Parker, Kekla, can you say something about that, or can you not say something about that?
That I have a graphic novel?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I do, in fact. This is also a 2022 book. I didn't want to go through all the books, but the 2022 book that is co-written with Cynthia Leidig-Smith is a graphic novel about two cousins who, come together at their grandmother's house to start 6th grade in a brand new community and become superheroes in their community. So that is the Blue Stars series. And we have a little website. It hasn't been populated too much yet, but it's bluestarsseries.com. And it is so much fun. We're having so much fun with this
collab. Look at that super collab. You are a boss.
Dr. Parker, she's just writing down.
I know, right? I'm like out of post-it. Look at my post-it. I'm out. I got nothing.
Book one is fall 2022, so that'll be out.
Yes.
And we're so excited. Our illustrator is a debut illustrator, Molly Murakami, and she is just amazing. I mean, it's amazing. You're gonna love these characters. They really come to life. One of the characters is biracial, like myself, and one of the characters is Muskogee, like Cynthia. And so it's a very intersectional, diverse family, and a city urbanopolis.
You said it's a series, so you're writing a series.
It will be
continuing his series. This is great. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think we have time for this is our last question. Sorry. From Jacqueline, is there a particular author who most influenced your early writing?
Oh, I'll start first. I always talk about Walter D. Myers because I loved reading Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume growing up. But it wasn't until I discovered him, specifically a book called Motown and Dee Dee, that it clicked that like someone who looked like me can write books too. And I know I saw that in other books and TV shows, but like just reading about these characters, realizing that they are like me and my friends, and then discovering the man behind it kind of gave me the confidence to think, oh, well, maybe this secret desire to be a writer doesn't have to be secret. Like maybe I could do this thing as well too. And then I discovered other authors like Virginia Hamilton, especially as well. And that, shaped certainly my younger self as I grew into wanting to be an author. I'll always be in their debt.
It's no secret that I am 100% a Mildred D. Taylor stan. I got to feature her, I think it was one of our first couple of years with the Brown Bookshelf, but it wasn't until, maybe I had been writing for a couple of years that I realized how much she had influenced my writing, just because she had a very earnest way of telling her stories, talking about very hard, graphic, sometimes brutal things, but in a way for children, and just realizing that was possible. And that really has impacted why I'm not shy about talking about just about anything in a children's book, because I think, she did the blueprint for how you can do that.
Yeah. I'm also Mildred D. Taylor all the way. That was the first book that opened things up for me as a reader. I mean, I came to writing quite a bit later, but I read Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor in middle school. And that was the book that I was, I learned something, I saw something, it's so vivid in my mind still to this day. And, you know, it was a very powerful reading experience. I remember the moment when I turned the little paperback rack and found it and grabbed it and took it home. Like, I remember that really powerfully. And, you know, since then I've read a lot of other authors. I mean, I love Audre Lorde, I love Jacqueline Woodson and Rita Williams Garcia, who were two of my early mentors, kind of like the way Varian was talking about Walter. And I continue to try to learn and read authors. I'm reading Octavia Butler more now than ever before. I had only ever read Kindred, so I'm getting into that and really finding it world broadening.
You know, and I'll just add, you know, again, thinking about Jerry passing away today, you know, I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about great authors and laud them. And Jacqueline Woodson and Rita Williams Garcia are two of the most phenomenal authors out there. And I'm still surprised when people have not read their work. Rita's new book, Sitting at St. James, is a masterpiece. I hope everyone reads it. I hope it wins so many awards. Jacqueline Woodson has been an institution forever. And there's so many other people coming up, but like, I don't want to lose sight of those two authors as well, too. They're just amazing.
And I think that that's just sort of, once again, a really great testament to who you all are, and that you are always uplifting other people and showing that, you know, like the work is that, and that you are so loving and affirming. And we are so fortunate to have you all writing for all of us, really, not just for our children, but for all of us. And it's been such a pleasure tonight to moderate this panel. Paula, thank you for asking me. I'll turn it back over to Margaret. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, everyone. It's just been wonderful to have this conversation. We really appreciate all of you. Thank you, Paula, Varian, Kekla, and Dr. Parker for joining us tonight for the wonderful conversation. And thanks, viewers, for joining us. Please remember, you can still click the link in the chat to purchase your copy of each of the author's books. And you can check out our website. Wrong way here. You can check out our website for other books by these authors. And you can also follow us on social media at Kids in Prose. So I think that pretty much winds it down. Thanks again, everyone. Keep reading widely and hope everyone has a good rest of the evening. Take care.
Good night.